Hello and welcome to Patty's program for sales training for the dive professional called Positive Approach Selling. My name is John Nesbitt and I'll be working with you throughout this program. Now, if you've never had any sales training, you're going to find the concepts that we explain in this program to be very simple. If you have had formal sales training or retail sales experience, you're going to find some of the things in this program you've probably heard before. Well, that's because the principles of selling are fairly straightforward and simple. We establish communication with our customer, we find out what their wants, needs, and desires are, and we try to find the products and services to meet those wants, needs, and desires. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, if you can keep these things in mind, you're going to find this program and your sales experience to be pleasant and fun. You know, most people come into Patty Dive Centers and resorts on the recommendation of their friends and relatives. And consumer surveys have indicated that scuba diving and snorkeling are some of the most popular activities that people want to do. So your customers are predisposed to having a great time as soon as they walk through the door. Now let's take a look at the 4 reasons that people do or don't do something.
Well, the first is time. How long does it take, and what am I going to miss while I'm doing it? The second reason, price and value. Is it worth it in terms of time and money? The third reason is social context. Are others like me doing it? And the last, opportunity. If I invest in this activity, will I be able to take advantage of it enough to make it worthwhile?
If you found yourself trying to answer these questions about things you're interested in personally, that's really good. You're beginning to think like a customer, and that's the first sign of a positive attitude. Your attitude can be your greatest asset. You know, there are basically 2 reasons that people don't reach a goal or accomplish a task or meet a deadline. It's because they don't know how or they don't want to. Well, this program is designed to deal specifically with the don't know how part of that equation. But we need to spend a few minutes talking about attitude. Attitude is the don't want to part.
A dive operation stays in business by focusing on 2 sources of revenue, existing customers and their referrals. Today, everyone is feeling there's simply not enough hours in the day to do all the things they want or need to do. Customers will get their needs met by you, or they'll simply go somewhere else.
The goal of the positive approach is to create a win-win situation. First of all, the customer wins because he's getting his wants, needs, and desires taken care of. You win, of course, because you're making a sale. You determine the customer's wants, needs, and desires by asking questions. And once you've made the determination, you, as a professional, make the suggestion for products or services that'll best meet them. You earn your customer's trust and you don't violate that trust. You do this by keeping your customer's interest in mind at all times. In short, your interest is in serving the customer and not pushing them into buying just to make a sale. The positive approach is based on 3 attitudes: your attitude toward selling, your attitude toward yourself, and your attitude toward the customer. In a dive operation, whether retail or resort, everyone, including full and part-time instructors, are involved in sales and marketing. As a dive professional, you should get used to using these 2 terms together. Our goal with Positive Approach Selling is to identify the steps and help you, as a dive professional, turn your personal marketing efforts into sales opportunities.
Marketing can be defined as the business activity of presenting products or services to potential customers in such a way to make them eager to buy. Marketing includes such matters as the pricing and packaging of the product and the creation of demand by advertising and sales campaigns. Using this definition, think of sales as the mechanical or the scientific process, while marketing is more the art that creates the circumstances for sales to take place. So, when you're standing before your customers, you're marketing. Even if you don't speak, your actions, the equipment you're wearing, and your demeanor are sending a message to existing and potential customers.
Some people say they're not involved in sales and marketing, they're simply dive masters or instructors. Well, here's the thing. As a diving professional, you're marketing whether you like it or not by simply standing there. The goal with Positive Approach Selling is to help you identify the steps and turn your personal marketing effort into sales opportunities.
Positive approach selling is feeling good about your role in the sales process because you see yourself helping customers meet their needs. It's seeing the customer as the single most important factor contributing to success in your career. So you have to make a 100% commitment to customer service. Be enthusiastic and excited about selling, not only products and services, but the diving lifestyle as well. Selling has often been described as a transference of enthusiasm. If you believe, as one well-known sales trainer has suggested, that people buy on emotion and justify with fact, it's easy to understand why your attitude is so important to the success of your business and our industry. One final word on attitude. There will always be times when you can't meet a customer's needs for any number of reasons. It's critically important in that event you maintain a level of trust and goodwill you've already established. A smile and an invitation to return will go a long way to ensuring the customer does come back to give you another sales opportunity at a later date, and that word of mouth to friends and family remains good. Every customer is a potential sales and referral opportunity, whether a purchase was made today or not.
There are 4 fundamental principles to positive approach selling. Number 1, earn your customer's trust and don't violate that trust. 2, identify and understand your customers' needs, wants, and desires. Your customers will most often buy because they feel you understand their needs, not necessarily because they understand your products or service. Positive approach selling places primary emphasis on meeting each customer's unique and individual needs. Number 3, save the details for later. The details of your product or service are best presented later in the sales process. Presenting detailed information about the product or service early in the sales process will often confuse the buyer. Remember, we're selling, not telling. It's important for you to spend your time asking questions so you can sharpen your sales presentation to the exact product or service your customer needs. It's important to get into this habit because you never want to be accused of wasting your customer's time. And finally, we always want our customers to make their own buying decisions. But what about the customer who's making their very first dive computer purchase? You've asked all the right questions and you have a pretty good idea of which product is going to meet their needs. But you have to admit, all that technical data can be a little overwhelming, even for those of us who work in the business. So what do you do for a customer who now has all the information but still can't see a clear decision? Well, this is your opportunity to be the pro. By using a phrase like,
"Well, may I make a suggestion?"
followed by,
"Based on what you've told me, I would go with this one. It has all the features that you're looking for and it's in the price range you described."
you may be able to help your customer make that decision. Positive approach selling requires you to assist and in some cases guide your customer to the appropriate product or service that's in their best interest. Never force a decision, however, because even if your customer accepts it, they may resent you for it. Positive approach selling is a two-way affair. It's an interaction between customer and salesperson.
It's asking questions, gathering information, problem solving, and employing basic human relation skills to the sales process. It's simply dealing with people the way they want to be dealt with. Positive approach selling does not try to manipulate the customer into buying. They don't like that, and frankly, neither do you. This is very different from the image of selling that people usually have about the sales process.
Now let's play a little game. What are the first 3 words that come to mind when you hear the word salesperson? Most lists include words like manipulative and pushy. By the way, the number 1 answer, used car, as in used car salesman. Now, what 3 words come to mind when you think of yourself as a salesperson? Most lists include words like concerned, caring, and professional. It's an interesting contrast, don't you think? We use this exercise to demonstrate this point. Most everyone's had a bad sales experience in their life. Our customers are no different. So because of their attitude towards salespeople in general, we have to do our very best job to demonstrate that we're different. Remember that no sale will occur unless trust and value have been established. In the positive approach to selling, we work hard to eliminate all of those negative adjectives. And while the steps to the sales process may be similar, we'll spend the majority of our time determining our customers' wants, needs, and desires and providing the best solutions for them. How important is it for you to be genuinely interested in your customers? Well, one survey indicated that 68% of people who stopped doing business with a particular company did so because of a perceived lack of interest or apathy on the part of the salesperson, the staff, or the management. The impact of such customer dissatisfaction can be astounding.
For example, a typical dissatisfied customer will tell 8 to 10 people. 1 in 5 will tell 20 people. There is some good news, however, and that is that 70% of those customers will do business with you again if you resolve problems in their favor. Now, if you resolve the problem on the spot, no problem. 95% will do business with you again. It's important to remember that you'll only hear from 4% of your dissatisfied customers. That means the largest majority, 96%, won't even give you a chance to resolve the problem. So what's that mean?
A 100% total commitment to customer service is required at all times. Everybody expects things to go wrong, but it's what you do past that point that really makes the difference. Remember, customer service is an attitude, not a department, so always be a professional.
Typical sales training programs identify 3 steps of the process: probing, pitching, and closing. Positive approach selling is a 6-step system of selling. We felt that adding preparation, handling objections, and follow-up were important enough to be dealt with as separate elements. So now let's take a look at the 6 steps of positive approach selling. Number 1, preparation. Number 2, information gathering. 3, the sales presentation. 4, handling objections. 5, closing the sale. And 6 is follow-up.
Let's talk about step 1, preparation. You know, there are actually 3 types of sales presentation. There's the one you plan, there's the one you do, and then there's the one you should have done. It happens to all of us, no matter how good we are. Preparation isn't about knowing all of the details, but it is knowing where to find the details. It's a mental as well as a physical process.
Have you ever walked into a business at opening time only to find the staff got there just a few minutes ahead of you? What does it make you think about their organization and their preparation? Get to work early enough to see what's going on, to see what's new and what's changed. You'd obviously want to know if a popular brand of mask was out of stock or if a certain charter was already booked. Physical preparation contributes to the mental preparation as well. Having that latest information allows you to relax and concentrate on the customer, and anytime you're doing that, it's worth it.
The next part of preparation is actually the beginning of the sales process. We're going to greet our customer. Now remember, everybody likes doing business with people they like, so your smile and greeting are going to go a long way to establishing a relationship with your new customer. Some people have asked, well, what do I say exactly? Well, you should say exactly what's appropriate for the situation. You see, it's all about what's going on around your customer and you. Just one thing to keep in mind. It shouldn't have anything to do with business and should be a little more creative than "can I help you?"
So how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I see you looking at snorkeling and some dive gear. Are you into diving or snorkeling?
Here's an idea to help you get in the proper frame of mind. Most of our customers, as you well know, are referred by friends and family. So there's a good chance the person who just walked through your door, whom you've never seen before, heard about you from someone else who's been a customer. Imagine they've been referred by your favorite customer and told specifically to come see you. In most cases, you'll smile, say hello, and you'll be off to the races. Imagine how this new customer is going to feel. Being greeted with warmth and sincerity by someone they've never met leaves a lasting impression.
You know, a friend of mine came here last year and she was telling me how great the diving was.
What's her name?
Her name's Victoria. She was
What's the last
here.
name?
DeLessie?
Oh yeah, yeah. She was out last year. She did the Mana dive with us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was telling me all about it
Yeah.
and how great it was. So I was thinking.
Now we need to find out why this customer is here today. This is arguably the most important phase of this process. Every customer has an idea of what product or service he's after. He may or may not, however, have a clear picture in his own mind of exactly what he wants or needs. During the information gathering phase, your job is to find out what picture is in your customer's head, and we do that by asking questions. Questions should begin very broad and general and become narrow and specific.
So are you going to try some diving while you're here?
You know, I'd like to check it out. It just looked so amazing on the video that I thought it would be great to try.
Now, have you actually tried it before?
I never have tried it at all.
Great, excellent. Well, we've got a couple of options. You can actually try it right out in the pool, or you can actually learn to dive and actually get certified to do that. So
Oh,
pretty
that-
easy to do.
That sounds great. I could get certified while I'm here this week.
Have you ever tried to have a conversation with someone when they were working on something else? Most of us like to have somebody's full attention when we're talking to them. It's especially important in a sales situation. Try using these listening techniques to ensure your customer knows you're paying full attention.
Look at the person. Maintain good eye contact. Ask questions. Don't interrupt. Don't change the subject. And beware of your emotions. Respond appropriately. You know, humans spend 80% of their time awake each day communicating. Unfortunately, only 45% of that time is spent listening. Because our brain is capable of taking in much more information than we're able to verbalize, our minds have a tendency to wander. As much as 75% of what is spoken to you is misunderstood, ignored, or forgotten. As you can see, listening skills that remain undeveloped will make your job in sales a lot tougher. Salespeople often are thinking about their next move rather than listening to their customer. Imagine a family of 4 comes into your operation asking about learning to dive. Good salespeople would also recognize the bigger picture. The parents are looking for an activity the entire family can participate in. That's their primary motivation for being there. Identify the primary motivation of each customer during the information phase of the process. Recognizing the primary motivation will help guide you during later phases. And never assume you already know what the customer's primary motivation is. Most people assume price is the key motivating factor, and it's simply not. Think about this for a second. If price were the primary motivating factor, most of us would drive the same inexpensive car and wear the same inexpensive clothes. Now let's take a look at the sales presentation phase of the sales progression. If the information gathering has been done correctly, the presentation step is your chance to shine if you remember a few simple ideas. First of all, be sure to speak to the customer's primary motivation. Always demonstrate benefits of the product or service as they directly relate to the customer's needs, wants, and desires.
If your information gathering has determined that your customer is interested in a BCD that's blue, size medium, and has weight integration, don't talk about how many pockets it has. Why? Because the customer hasn't identified that the number of pockets makes any real difference to him. Don't try to say everything you can think of about a given product or service. That's not what this is about. Remember, telling isn't selling.
As you demonstrate each of the features the customer has identified as desirable, ask for their agreement.
Asking these questions shows your customer you are paying attention. It validates your demonstration and will make it easier to close. Now, I know it seems like a lot of things to remember, but the concepts are easy to keep in mind if you think of the ABCs of selling. A, That's the advantage or feature of your product. B is benefit. That's benefit to the customer, and that's related directly to the advantage or the feature. C is confirmation or feedback that you did indeed relate the benefit of your product to the customer's needs. Now, most people have no problem delivering features, and fewer have problems delivering benefits. But most salespeople forget the confirmation phase, and that's really the most important step. What about objections? Objections are as much of the part of the sales process as the product or the customer, so you really shouldn't be afraid of hearing them. Objections can be an indication of a number of things. You may have misunderstood a point your customer made, or your customer may not have mentioned a specific desire during the information gathering process. In either of these cases, just take a few minutes to ask a few supporting questions to ensure you're back on track and to reinforce with your customer your desire to meet their needs with the best solution available. Every time you successfully overcome an objection, you become a better salesperson. Now, let's take a look at the types of objections you're likely to encounter. There are 4 types. First, conditional objections. Then, smokescreen objections. Sincere objections. And unspoken objections. Let's first look at a conditional objection. A conditional objection means a condition actually exists that prohibits buying. For example, you may have a customer say,
"Well, the night diver course is on Wednesday, and I fly home on Thursday."
You'll need to probe for additional information with comments like this, because unless you can change their departure date or move the night diver course, you're not going to make this sale. Now, I know what you're thinking. A good salesperson may have asked when the customer was leaving during the information gathering phase and avoided this situation completely. Good call. Let's take a look at smokescreen objections. Smokescreen objections are statements that might be a price negotiation ploy. When a customer says,
"You know, that's not exactly what I'm looking for."
it may make you feel like you missed something in your information gathering. Simply go back and reconfirm answers from your earlier probing questions to find out. A sincere objection means that a genuine concern exists about a particular product or service. Some examples of a sincere objection could be a statement like,
"You know, I should really get more experience before I take the advanced course."
In this case, you'd have to carefully explain the Advanced Open Water Diver Training Course is designed to give the customer additional experience under the watchful eye of an instructor.
sincere objections like this one may be a misconception your customer already has about a product or service you really had nothing to do with. It's an opportunity for you to reinforce your expertise and experience with a clear explanation. Let's take a look at unspoken objections. The unspoken objection is probably of the most concern to the salesperson because we can't solve problems we don't know are there, right? In fact, many sales are lost because the salesperson didn't sense the existence of that unspoken objection. Unspoken objections are usually communicated subtly through both verbal and nonverbal forms of communication. A couple of examples of unspoken objections could be statements like,
"You know, I'm just not sure. I'll think it over and I'll let you know."
It could mean hesitation or frowns or crossed arms, a sense of impatience. All of these are nonverbal signs of an unspoken objection. No negative comments are almost always a sign of an unspoken objection. So when do you deal with objections? Well, there are 3 times. That's before they occur, when they occur, or sometime later in the sales presentation. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I deal with an objection before I've heard it? Well, you have to see it coming in advance, and you're probably going to take care of that during the information gathering process. You're listening closely for anything that could be perceived as an objection. Then, during your sales presentation, you'll deal with the objection, positioning it as a benefit. For example, during the information gathering portion of the sales progression, what if your customer said,
"You know, I've looked at a lot of BCDs, but they all seemed overpriced for what you get."
Now you remembered that comment, and during your sales presentation you say,
Well, you know, this BCD is made from the highest quality material. Costs a little more, but it's going to last a really long time.
now you've turned an obstacle into an opportunity,
and demonstrated why the value of the product supports the price.
Now here's a circumstance where you should deal with an objection right away. That would be over a misconception. Suppose you had a customer say,
You know, I don't think I need to spend any money on an alternate air source right now. I only do shallow dives.
I think you should deal with that one right away because it's an important issue, and not dealing with it may be seen by the customer as an attempt to dodge the issue.
You rarely want to deal with an objection during the information gathering process. Try to wait until you've completed this step, then go back and pick it up. Or you can incorporate it during the sales presentation. Also, if you get a price objection prior to completing all of your ABCs of selling, you should try to deal with that later as well. Price-related discussions should always be placed at the end of the sales presentation. This allows you time to build the perceived value for your product or service. Try to avoid price early on in the sales progression, but if it appears you're dodging an issue, then go ahead and deal with it. Here are a couple of examples. Your customer may say,
You know, this regulator is really expensive.
You might respond with a statement like,
You know, price is an important consideration, but so is value. Let me tell you a little bit about the warranty. Okay?
Okay, all right.
Let's talk about dealing with objections. First of all, always hear the objection out. Never interrupt your customer, no matter how many times you've heard this particular objection before. Second, pause and think before you respond. It indicates to your customer that you're genuinely concerned. And three, never assume you understand the meaning of a statement. Always ask good follow-up questions for clarification and confirmation.
Another technique to use is the reflective listing technique. That's repeating your customer statement in the form of a question. You think the regulator is expensive? Most people will go on to explain what they mean. The additional information will help you understand why the customer felt the regulator was too expensive. Remember positive approach selling principle number 2, identify the wants, needs, and desires. And that most people buy because they feel understood, not because they like the product. Another technique is to compliment the customer on the objection and then treat it as a valid concern. For example, the customer may say,
Well, it sounds like a great deal, but I'm not sure if I want to go to a resort that I know nothing about.
You might respond with,
Oh, you know, I completely agree with you. And that's why we would never even consider running a trip to a place that we haven't checked out first. Okay?
All right.
All right.
You could use the feel, felt, found method. Here's an example. If you hear,
You know, I'm just not sure if I want to buy my equipment until after the open water dives.
you respond with,
You know, I know exactly how you feel, and other folks have felt the same way, but they found that they feel more comfortable in the water with their own equipment. And with our satisfaction guarantee, I mean, what have you got to lose?
The feel, felt, found method of dealing with objections is one of the most successful ways to deal with them. Now, the I understand how you feel statement really expresses empathy. The others have or I have statement acknowledges validity of the concern. Most importantly, it answers the objection using one of the most powerful forms of closing. The others have or I've found statement is actually a form of testimonial. But there's a very important point for you to remember here. Be sure the others have found statement is a true representation of the facts because you may be asked to prove that later on. You know, you should always remember as a professional salesperson never to argue with your customer because you'll always lose. You should try to use supportive comments whenever possible. This means agree whenever possible, and particularly when agreeing takes you closer to the sale. If a comment takes you away from the sale, then you should say nothing or use a phrase like, I understand. Here's an example. Suppose your customer makes a statement like, well, I guess it is a good idea to use new equipment in the pool before going to the open water. You simply reply, yes, you're certainly right there.
Another technique is to confirm acceptance. Remember the C in the ABCs of selling. You might ask your customer a question like,
So do you see how having your own equipment before the open water dives is a good idea?
always use yes or no questions to confirm acceptance.
There are two forms of buying signals, verbal and nonverbal. Verbal buying signals can be questions about the color and size or availability of a product. Nonverbal buying signals can include close examination of the merchandise or trying on the product. Buying signals can come anywhere during the sales process. Learn to identify verbal and nonverbal buying signals when working with your customers. And another thing, when the customer says, "I'll take it," professional salespeople know to stop selling it. Sometimes you get it exactly right on the first pass.
Now let's talk about the close. If you've done a good job information gathering and made a solid sales presentation, closing becomes a lot easier. It becomes easier because now you're matching the specific needs of your customer to the specific benefit of a product or service.
Is there a way to test how well you've done? Sure, it's called a trial close. The trial close is using another product, usually an accessory item, to test the main product presentation. An affirmative answer on the accessory item tells you the main product presentation was successful. A negative only means you have to do some additional information gathering. It doesn't mean you've lost the main product sale. After some additional questions, try your close again. Keep closing the sale as simple as possible. Just ask for the sale in your own words. In fact, the exact techniques or words are less important than your determination to ask the customer to buy. There are, however, a few techniques that may help you find the words that you feel are comfortable to you. Let's take a look at a few of those techniques. Don't try to remember all of these. It's more important you find a closing technique that suits your style, and one is enough. A technique that I found particularly effective is called an invitational close. It's most often used at the end of a sales presentation and is positioned as an invitation to buy. You might use a question like, "Why don't you give us a try?" or "Why don't you take it with you?" It can also imply that it's not really a permanent decision. Another technique is the ultimate choice close. It offers the customer a choice between something and something else. For example, you might say something like this,
Will that be cash, check, or charge?
or
Would you care to wait while I put all this together for you, or do you want to just come back later and pick it up?
perhaps you would say something like, "Would you like this in black or in blue?" Next is the what if close. This close is used primarily to close on an objection and is really a form of creative selling. For example, perhaps your customer says something like,
You know, I'd really like to get started on the specialty, but I can't make it Thursday night.
you reply,
Oh, I know how that goes. Why don't we put you down for Saturday?
Right, okay.
Great.
This reply also tells you if the customer is truly interested in finding a solution to the problem. The comparison close is used mainly to close on a price objection when comparing apples to apples. The objective of the comparison close is to change a couple of things that really make it an apples to oranges comparison. For example, let's say a customer has a list of items from a competitor, walks into your store and says, "I'd like a price on all these particular items." If possible, it's best for you to change one or two items on that list so the comparison is no longer valid. That allows you to build perceived value for your particular package. It's important you be aware of competitive product pricing, or you are prepared to make a presentation for your products that adds value. When someone asks for a price quotation, try treating it as you would any other sales opportunity. Introduce yourself and ask a few questions to determine the primary motivation. You could begin with a question like, "Is price your only concern? Or are there other reasons you've selected these items?" The answers should give you an idea of the customer's mindset, and it will help you decide how to proceed.
Another powerful form of closing is the testimonial close. Now, a testimonial is a story from a happy, satisfied customer. It can be a powerful motivator. There's a couple of rules to keep in mind, however. They shouldn't be used at random, and they shouldn't be used too often. Most importantly, a testimonial needs to be absolutely accurate.
Now let's take a look at another often used close called the assumptive close. The assumptive close is usually the form of a statement that uses words or a tone of voice that assumes that a buying decision has been made. For example, you may say something like,
While Ken's assembling your equipment, I can give you that information on that liveaboard.
It can be a very powerful close if it's used smoothly. Another close is the urgency close. Now this is used usually in conjunction with some special or promotional event, and it provides an incentive to buy today. It's important to note, however, that this close should be used sparingly because it's very easily perceived as being manipulative. Finally, there's the no-risk close, and it's the best close you can use. It does require a sound satisfaction guarantee plan, however. Telling your customer returning a product for a refund or exchange is not a problem takes the pressure off the customer. Some retailers still use no refund or exchange policies, but frankly, in a service economy where customers have many choices and little time, this policy is outdated. As you can see, what this close does is allow the customer to try out the product with no risk. In most cases, the customer won't bring it back.
If you've done your job as a salesperson using the techniques we've described so far on this program, then your chances of having a satisfied customer are greatly increased. Satisfied customers mean return business and referrals. Punitive or restrictive return policies do not.
Now let's take a look at the final step in the sales process, follow-up.
Follow-up is as important as any step in the process because frankly it sets the stage for future sales and greatly assists in keeping customers. Studies indicate that some companies may spend as much as 6 times more money to recruit new customers as they do to keep existing ones. Keeping that in mind, let's look at 2 important steps involved in follow-up.
First, you should send a thank you note as soon as possible after the sale. The best way to express your appreciation is to send a quick handwritten note.
Some people have asked, is email just as good? I'd suggest you try it and find out. There are obviously advantages to both. With a handwritten note, you can include customer referral cards, whereas the email is going to probably beat your customer home. My best advice is this: something is better than nothing. You know, everybody talks about sending thank you notes, but very few people do. It builds customer loyalty and it's great word of mouth. Remember, that's the #1 form of advertising in our industry. Should you send a thank you note after every sale? Absolutely. It'll get easier the more you do it, and you'll probably come up with some great incentives for customer return as well.
Secondly is regular contact. One of the best ways to maintain regular contact is through a newsletter. It could contain things like new product or travel program information. It can also provide the place for you to talk to and about your customers and their adventures. Recognizing a customer's promotion at work or the birth of a child sends the message that these people mean more to you than just business. Birthday and Christmas cards are great customer contact pieces. Email is a great way to pass on information as well. A link to a diving-related magazine article, or television program, or other presentation is something many of your customers will appreciate. We talked earlier in this program about sales and marketing and how the two were linked. This is more of that marketing effort. Regular communications remind customers of who you are and that diving is a part of their lives. It sets the stage for additional sales opportunities. Brainstorm additional follow-up ideas with your staff or ask friends if they've had a clever or memorable follow-up contact. It'll be worth your time.
That completes the 6 steps in the sales process. Let's quickly review and we'll finish up with 10 characteristics of positive approach salespeople.
First of all, you'll recall there are 6 steps in the process. Step 1 was preparation. In preparation, you must be sure to review the facts and prepare yourself mentally to succeed. Step 2 is information gathering. The purpose of information gathering is to identify your customers' wants, needs, and desires. Use your listening skills and good questions to complete this step. Next is the sales presentation. Because every customer is unique, your sales presentation is never a canned pitch. You always sell creatively and specifically relate the benefits to your customer's needs using the ABCs of selling. Step 4. You handle any objections that present themselves. Remember, objections are a necessary part of the sales process and should be welcomed. Now it's time to close this sale. You'll recall that you close when you sense an attitude of acceptance in your customer. And if you're not sure that attitude is acceptance, use a trial close. Most importantly, you ask your customer to buy in your own words. Finally, step 6. That's follow-up. Send a thank you note as soon as possible and always maintain regular contact with your customers. One thing is certain, follow-up will increase your sales. Here are the 10 characteristics of positive approach salespeople. First of all, you should have a commitment to excellence. Your goal is to provide the best service you can to your customers. Strive to improve your performance every day. A commitment to excellence is a commitment to improvement, not perfection. Next is effective time management. Prepare and practice your selling skills. Be familiar with the products and services your dive center or resort offers and how they can be bundled or added on. Don't wait until you have a room full of customers to think about what and how you're going to sell. Number 3 is a desire for knowledge. Always look for new seminars and training courses that you can attend. Improving upon your knowledge is always useful in earning the trust and building credibility with your customers. We included a few well-known training programs on this DVD for your use. Number 4, associate with winners. Be encouraged and encourage others. Remember, people do business with people they like, and most people like people who enjoy their work. Number 5, high esteem and high self-image. Your confidence in yourself should come from your commitment to excellence. Think and act like the professional you are. Number 6 is first impressions. Remember, dress and appearance are very important. Also, use the customer's name every time you can. Punctuality is extremely important. Be on time and return phone calls on a timely basis. Number 7 is flexibility. It's simply the willingness and skills to adapt to accomplish a goal. You need to do what it takes to get the job done. Number 8 is enthusiasm. Selling is an enthusiastic and emotional process. Bring enthusiasm to your work and your customers will catch it. Number 9, a sense of humor. You must take your commitment seriously, but never take yourself or life too seriously. Positive approach salespeople have the ability to laugh at themselves and the situation around them. This comes primarily from a high level of self-image and a high level of self-esteem. And finally, number 10, the willingness to take a risk. Taking a risk is idea-centered. Be creative in developing new ideas. Be open to exploring new ideas and open to change. You should always be willing to take a risk for your customer, but never be willing to take a risk with your customer.
Well, we certainly have covered a lot of information regarding the sales process and your role in it. But this is not the end, it's merely the beginning. This program was designed so you can review the individual steps of the sales process at your leisure. We'd also suggest you take a look at the reading list provided for more information on sales and marketing, or plan to attend a live presentation of this or other sales training programs. The most important thing for you to do is practice the fundamental sales skills every day. Diving is one of the most exciting activities on the planet, and as a dive professional, you should never forget it. By developing your individual sales skills, you can meet your customers' needs with excitement and enthusiasm, and perhaps make diving their passion as well. Good luck, and thanks for watching.